Don't put an LS in it. Don't put an LS in it. Don't put an LS in it. Don't put an LS in it! Before I get into too many details of the swap, I want to give you a little bit of history of the car. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but I just want to tell you because it's part of the history of the car and it feels appropriate. While I was doing all the rust repair for the car, I actually purchased a 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost with the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder direct injected turbo. This package was super lightweight. It was new. Nobody knew anything about it, and it was really exciting because it had the potential to make really good power. While I'm doing this, Sun Kang, or Han from the Fast and the Furious franchise, is he still alive? Is he dead? Had teamed up with Ford Racing to build a Ford Maverick with an EcoBoost 2.3 for SEMA. This car, despite Ford Racing's extensive involvement in the project, still had problems. It didn't run right. It didn't like the package it was in. If Han, I literally watched him explode in Tokyo Drift, partnered with Ford Racing was having problems with their swap, there was no way I was gonna be successful without a huge mountain of problems along the way. I shared the build with Ford Racing. They didn't seem terribly interested in moving their schedule up on offering parts, and not many people were interested in the crate engine. So I almost sat for 2 years waiting for this package to become available. Then the problems started coming out. They started failing head gaskets. The aftermarket didn't take to the product like I thought it would. Aftermarket ECUs weren't really available for direct injected engines until just recently now. After waiting for these 2 years while it sat in a car where the top of the engine hit the hood, the bottom of the engine practically touched the ground, I sold it. I sold the engine, the transmission, I sold the entire shell to different buyers. Someone's gonna make a race car out of the shell, and someone was actually gonna put the engine into I think a Datsun truck. I lost a lot of interest in it when I really started looking at all the costs that would be involved for putting in a glorified SR20 that just has a lot more technology behind it. So after I sold the engine, I started debating all of the other options that there were. Did I wanted a JZ, an LS, an RB? The big thing that I really wanted out of this is I wanted something that would make 500 horsepower very reliably and would give me as little problems as possible for the package while being as simple as possible for the package. With an RB car, it's beautiful. I love that engine, but the parts for it are really limited. They're really expensive. They're hard to come by. And if you're at an event and you don't have a spare or something, you're gonna be pretty much screwed immediately. This crate LS3 makes 495 horsepower, 470 something foot-pounds of torque, and it's gonna be the perfect baseline for this build as it gets started. I wanted to give some of the history of the car. I know it sounds like a cop-out that I didn't see it through with the EcoBoost, but at the time, it was really frustrating for me. I really wanted to make it work, but there were so many problems that were coming in, and it really killed me. So I've got two main goals today. The first of which, I want to get the front engine accessory drive on, and then I want to get the oil pan swapped so that we're pretty much ready to swing the engine in the next couple episodes. There's still a lot of different things I'll need to take care of for this engine swap. I need to worry about the cooling system, lube system, fuel, crankcase ventilation, intake, exhaust, and all of the wiring to get this running properly. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see content on, and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can throughout the process. There's ports on the side of the water pump for running a heater core. Since I'm not going to have heat in the car, I found a U-shaped hose to recirculate the coolant instead of plugging it or plumbing it into the cabin. The accessory drive is going to be pretty simple on this since I'm not using power steering or air conditioning. I'm using a factory Corvette high mount belt tensioner and a low mount alternator bracket from ICT Billet with a 105 amp AC Delco alternator. This alternator is compact and hopefully won't hit the engine mount once it's in the car. The engine mounts are from Apex Engineered, and they're designed to be used with their tubular front cross member we installed in episode 2. The oil pan I'm using is a rear sump from Masked Motorsports. The kit included a new oil pickup tube which needed to be measured and checked using modeling clay prior to installation. Make sure to lubricate the O-ring seal on the tube prior to installing. When you're replacing the oil pan gasket on an LS, there are 4 locations you need to apply RTV silicone prior to installing the gasket and pan. You don't want to use too much here, or else you'll get silicone chunks in the pan and trash your engine. The pan has built-in ports for an oil cooler and an oil temperature sensor. I also needed to change dipsticks to work with this pan. With the rear sump oil pan, the engine mounts, and the front engine accessory drive on the engine now, it's in a good position to go into the car. I'm gonna wait. My third hood should be here later this week, and once it's here, I'm gonna have to be in the engine bay to make some brackets, and if the engine's in there, I'm a big guy, so it won't quite work. This is still a really good start. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for commenting and subscribing, and I will see you in the next episode.